Welcome to Week 4, Overlap and the Wave Principle. This is Classical Animation Workflow and Techniques with Enrique Barone. Enrique is going to be demoing in Flash. The most recent version of Flash is called Adobe Animate. Without further ado, let's dive in.
And I'm gonna talk a little bit about symbols today in Flash. I'm a little bit skeptical because there's a lot of assignments where, well, you guys went like way over what I was expecting the assignments on a good way, on a really good way. So I was planning, and I will talk about symbols, but for a lot of you guys, there's so many drawings that are like really exaggerated and cool in a way that symbols might not be the best way to clean up. I'm gonna show it anyway because it's good to keep the volume and that helps in that thing that you were saying about like which line I choose. So you will be working with a more precise drawing basically. But on the other hand, it can look a little bit stiff as well. So it's kind of like it's a decision the animator should make. And based on what I've seen in the assignments, I think there's some of the assignments would be better, I guess, to clean up like we clean the shape, and some would be better to clean maybe with a symbol helping to keep the volume. And I'm gonna show how we can like break that in the symbol, break that one shape, that the idea that there's only one shape inside. We're gonna see more of that. And talking about the cleanup for the assignment. Let me just. This class is actually a little bit lighter on content. Really, I'm gonna talk about a little bit more about overlap, which we talked briefly for the shape assignment, but now we're gonna actually like apply the overlap in the assignment and talk a little bit more about that. And we're gonna combine the idea of overlap with the idea of the wave principle, which is kind of like the main subject for the class, which is how to move a line on a fluid way, like considering like waves, and basically considering how the line drags and follow through and overlap. So overlap and the wave principle, they are related matters, and we're gonna see why, and then we're gonna practice both in the assignment. And other than that, I'm gonna show a little bit more about Flash and talk about symbols and a bit of masks and maybe some twins, a little bit more like technical part, and similar to any other class. Feel free to stop and like make questions. But yeah, like the second half is a little bit more technical. Just so you guys, for the third assignment, can kind of like this. The third assignment is the character assignment, which is kind of like the final. I don't want to say most important, but it's the final assignment where we're gonna apply everything that we've been seeing and talking about and practicing on a full character with arms and legs and a head and a body. So you guys are gonna have like all the tools in terms of animation and hopefully a little bit more Flash, so you guys can decide how to approach the character on different ways. That said, it's always like the focus is to be always like on drawing and like that kind of stuff. So the symbol and like showing the software, it's not the main thing. So overlap, as we've seen briefly with the shape assignment, overlap it's all about dragging and then following through, and in this follow through the overlap happens. I remember we talked about that idea of doing a character bouncing. So let's say my character is going from here. Oh. And then up. More here. And then up. And then starting to go down. And then like midway. and then yeah, and then back down and starting to go up. So probably, so there you go, like the overlap, and hopefully that's a little bit more clear in your guys' mind as than it was in the first time we talked about. So when the character is going up, we're gonna drag its parts. Let's say it's a hair, because we made the example we made was with an octopus. So let's do a hair here now. Maybe like a hair like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and kind of like add a little bit of solid drawing here as well. Let's do that guy in the middle. So up and then go down and then come. So as the character is going up, the hair is gonna be dragged down, right? Overlap is all about these contraries. So if it's going left, you can drag the stuff to the right. If you're going up, you're gonna drag the stuff to down. And if it's going like that way, you can do your drag like that way. So it's not just about like up and down or like right and left, but it's like how like the actual direction. And we're gonna see in this class, if it's going like that way, how can we do that overlap. So up until this point, we talked about up and down, and then maybe like right and left. And we're gonna start talking about, say, the character wants to go like that way. So okay, character is going up, and hair is going. It's being dragged down. Character, it's still going up. So the hair is still being dragged here. Now, when the character starts to go down, the hair is gonna start to overlap or to follow through, right? So my hair is going up now in this point. Then when the character is going down, my hair is gonna like keep following through. Oh, maybe that's too much. And now as it's going down, let's do one more here. And I mean, obviously timing here is just like it's not really a thing now. It's just like for the sake of demonstrating the drag and overlap. So let's say the character goes a little bit more here. So the hair now is like being like completely dragged. Now pointing up as the character is going down, right? And as the character gets to this point, the hair is still being dragged, and then it starts to move up. Then the hair starts to follow through, and then we can basically like complete the loop. Oh. Right? So that's that's like overlap on a nutshell, really. It's if you drag and you consider like the moment where your character is changing direction, and in this moment you start like following through with the shape that was being dragged, and then as the character is completely in a new direction, then the direction of the drag will also change. So it always like delays a little bit the action, and that's what causes the idea of the overlap. And we can do that. I'm doing like up and down, but we can do that like right and left, and like say like right and left. It could be like ears flopping or like a tail, but the principle is the same. You always like drag and then you overlap. Now, when I was doing that, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I wasn't just uh, overlapping the hair by making the hair going up. I was say like this frame here is an important one because I'm overlapping thinking about the arc of like this tip here. And this tip here is starting to describe this S curve. Because my character is going down and then this is going up, but it's going up on a very fluid way, describing an S curve. And as I do that, my S curve continues here. And that's the arc that I'm describing now in this movement. And then my S continues here. And then as I am back here, I'm kind of like back on my straight-ish line. It still has a little bit of a curve, but it's mostly straight. And then here, the same thing starts to happen again because I'm overlapping, and I'm not overlapping like here. I'm overlapping thinking on my S curve. Let's bring that one here. Oh, here's something interesting. See like this pop here? Like see this pop at the end? Feels a little bit too fast. So I'm gonna like add an in between here, not thinking about timing again. So it goes from here to here. And then because I'm thinking about my S curve here, the S curve is a shape that has like tons of like fluidity on itself, and it has it kind of like tells me what to do really, because we know like where the shape needs to go. So my shape's here, like I'm just gonna continue my S curve here. And then I'm back here. Oh, yeah, here. And then I'm back here. So now I can go and basically draw my hair according to this S curve. Let's see. Can probably push that a bit more. Oh, let's try. And it's not about completely following the path, but it's also considering like where the path is kind of. The thing about this S here is what's happening here is that this tip is overlapping this other tip. So as this tip goes down, this tip starts to go up, basically overlapping one another, and that's a little bit how the wave principle works. And, I'm gonna push that one here a bit more. There you go. A little bit weird here. Let me. Oh, that's what is wrong. That drawing. I put the in between on the wrong place, so it's going up here, and I put the in between because I had my onion skin set up on the wrong way. So yeah, so that all can go up. That would change the whole thing. Yeah, there you go. So now my drawing is going up and my S curve is going here and then it's picking up here. Yeah. That's better. Does that make sense? That's still mostly about the overlap, but already kind of like bringing the idea of the S curve, which we're gonna talk more now. Do you guys have any questions about overlap? I feel that we talked about in the first assignment, and it was a little bit part of the second assignment to find that overlap, but like the assignment wasn't really designed for that. That assignment is designed to plan the overlap. So before going forward with the wave principle, do you guys have any questions for the overlap, or is that all making sense? Like the dragging until the end and then flipping. All good? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important to consider where the energy is coming from, and understanding the energy. It's kind of like understanding this momentum and the inertia that the movement has. And there's some really good examples in the class later from Eric Goldberg. So say like this direction of thrust here, let's say that's the momentum, that's the inertia, that's where the energy of the movement is coming from. So in this case it's going down, and the drag, he points the drag down, but it's the fingers are actually like they're being dragged going down, but they are pointing up. And the foot's like drag means you stay with the shape longer where the shape was. So in this case, the movement is coming here, so the fingers will stay longer in this around this area, so they are gonna be dragged here. And the foot, because the character is jumping, the foot, you can drag the foot and make the foot longer on the ground, or like pointing the ground. The same here. The energy is coming here, and let's say like this character was here when he was punched, so the foot's gonna go like that direction, and the hand gonna go that direction. So it's always like, where's my main movement? What's driving my movement? So in the case of the bouncing ball, it's obviously the ball. So like everything else will work around that energy that the ball is creating. So all the stuff like around the ball will be dragged, including the facial features. So that's why when a ball jumps, we can drag the head down, which means basically like dragging the facial features like down. And then as the head starts to go down, we point the facial features a bit more up. Like the more you do, and like animating it's also like controlling these, like how much you overlap, how much you drag, how much you anticipate. This how much question is very much like the animator's question, and it has to do with like who is your character? Does your character move slow or fast, or is your character like more like a happy character that is more poppy and jumpy and snappy, or it's more like a heavy big character that moves slow, so like it doesn't need much of anticipation, or it anticipates just a little bit. For like another good example, like say if your character has like really like big jaw, like a bulldog, so there's like tons of opportunities for overlapping. But yeah, this like how much you play with all these principles. That's where you can say like bring your animator's voice to your scene or to your animation. And that goes also like for timing, for spacing, for everything really. If you say if you use like a lot of like ease-ins and you anticipate on a specific timing or spacing, you kind of like start to develop a style and a voice, and it's all by playing with these principles. Really, the principles are the same. It's only 12, right? As people say. Oh yeah, and I started to play a little bit here with the solid drawing. I said I was going to do that. So like similar to the hair, and a little bit about this, how much we play with stuff. Let's do the same thing, but not as pushed. So let's start here. Let's pick up from here where the shape's going up. And let's do the facial features looking down, but not so much. And then still looking down a little bit, but not so much. And still a little bit. And then as the shape starts to go down, I'll do my facial features kind of like starting to go up, but like only a little bit, so we notice that a rotation is happening. And then at this point, let's like really like push that rotation, and maybe like here as well. And then as it falls, it still falls a little bit dragged, but not so much. And then that's the flip. That's the so same thing. Things going up and things going down. I'm pushing more the hair, and I'm pushing not so much like the head rotation, just enough for us to feel there's a solid drawing, that there's like that the character lives on a 3D space. And I was really happy with the assignment to see like construction lines and like head rotating. Like it's really nice to see the assignments feeling on a 3-dimensional environment, because you guys were considering solid drawing. I was very, very happy and impressed about that. So yeah, like overlap. Let's start playing with this idea of overlap, and from there start to talk more about the wave principle. So my sphere goes from here to here, and then back. So I'm gonna like decelerating from there. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then start to come back to the same position. 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Now I have like a line hanging here, and instead of like just doing this with my line, I'm gonna drag this part here. So similar to the hair thing that we were talking about, I'm gonna drag that part here. Then as I'm going this direction, I'm gonna keep dragging and dragging. Like there's nothing different happening here than what was happening with the hair, but now the shape's going left and right. And then when my shape starts to go, let's do that. When my shape starts to go back, like here, I'm gonna start, this tip here is gonna start coming that way, and this tip's gonna start to overlap, right? And then my shape at this point can be more here, and then now it's where that S curve is happening. It's where and when that shape's going that way and that's being dragged the other way. And again, keep dragging and keep dragging and keep dragging here. Right? You guys, so I was a little bit confused at the beginning there because I wanted to show like starting to go from this drawing and then enter the loop. So that's what was getting me a little bit confused. I have like a better example here, but it's the same thing is happening. So straight line, that keeps being dragged here, and then drag, and as it starts to change direction here, then the shape starts to follow through and overlap, and then same thing, drag, starts to overlap, and then it's back to this drawing, which then you guys see is the same, which then completes the loop, which does that. So that's the exact same thing that was happening in the hair, but left and right. But what I want to do now with this line here, I want to go ahead and I want to push my S curve, implying like more overlap and more drag and like more more follow through, more energy basically. So let's push that drag even more here, and then let's push that even more here, and then as it starts to go down, let's push that S now like way more, like really like making the S show. And as it goes there, if the S has like, so like an S like this has less energy than an S like this, right? And so if my S is like, instead of this S here, now I have this S here, that means that this tip can go like even further, like really overlapping. And you see I'm basically like following that guideline that I did at first. And I'm always kind of like thinking where I was coming from. So here, and then I want to keep doing that, keep the momentum of this tip here, and like complete the arc here. So I'm gonna go here. That would push my drag even more. I'm gonna go here. And then I'm kind of like again my shape started to change direction here, so I'm gonna push that S, and again like really pushing, and then I'm gonna copy that to my first frame, and I'm gonna loop that just so you guys see how much more that S curve is presented now. Oh, sorry. There you go. So you see that because I push my S curve, there's like way more fluidity in the movement, and the line feels like way less stiff and way less hard. And that fluidity and that smoothness is what really, I mean, the more smooth the animation is, I guess, the more we feel the movement being natural, and that and so it's pleasing to the eyes. Really, that's what it is. And that's the thing with arcs. Like arcs are very pleasing to the eyes, and that's why we should follow arcs, because like when you watch something, you're being rewarded by the next frame. So if your next frame is kind of like what your brain is expecting, in a way, it pleases your brain, and so you enjoy the animation more. If something, so let's say you want to have the opposite effect, you want to like have like a weird impact and like a weird feeling. You can play with the arcs being wrong, and that will feel like a. That's why when you see kind of say like zombies, they don't move with arcs. They kind of like move like all around, and that's weird because it's unnatural. And so if you wanted the opposite effect than smoothness, which sometimes is the case, you can play with like having stuff not on arcs. But if you wanna like smooth animation, then arcs are really really key to that. And so that's happening. And let me just go back to that one. Yeah, I kind of did the same a little bit earlier, and then what I did, I was just making the circling the points where the tips are. So here and then here and then here and then here, here, here and here. And you see that I'm describing this like really like fluid H shape, which are basically like two S's, one when it goes and one when it comes back. So I have like this, and that's really what arcs are. Like up until this point, we've been working with arcs as the path that the character is going. And yeah, that's one thing about arcs. The other thing about arcs is like other than the path that the character is describing, what are the paths that like everything within the character is describing. So right now I have like this line going on, and the ending tip is describing this arc. But when we have a character, that can be a hand, and those dots will represent, say, like the wrist. And if my wrist is moving like on this on arcs really, and considering uh, these S curves and all that, that will give your arm in this case a more smooth feel. And that goes for everything in your character. So the same goes for your foot, the same goes for your head. So if you're dragging your head, you should always kind of like considering the arc, like how your head goes up and down. And again, like here, as you saw, we push that S curve, so that that final arc S is really easy to see. But we could have pushed less, but still have like an arc. So stuff always, or like most of the times, they move in arcs, and it's very important to consider those. Impassive. Phil, do you advise to animate in passes like you're doing, like the head and body all the way, then arms and legs all the way, then hair? Yeah, I do actually. I do. Uh, so the more you know your character, the 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 more natural you will end up animating everything all together. But it has been the case, and it's actually super common that I do like the body, and then I do the arms and legs, like you were asking, Phil. So yeah, and for the assignment, that's exactly what the assignment's gonna be. So I'm gonna talk about the assignment a little bit later, but we're gonna add some extensions to the bouncing head. Not arms and legs yet, but stuff where you can play with the S curves and the overlaps. So yeah, totally get the. And the reason why it's good to do the body first is because that thing that I was talking about, like where the energy is coming from, and it's usually like saying a punch is obviously in the hand, but like if a character is moving, it's usually from the hips really, uh, unless the character I mean, don't consider that like 100%, but like if an action doesn't involve hand or legs, it's, let's say, like a walk. So that energy is gonna come from the hips. But if an action, it's an action with the hands and the legs, then yeah, it's different. Maybe the energy is coming from the legs and the arms. But it's always important to. So to your question, actually, maybe not the body first, but like whatever is more important in the scene. So say if you're doing a punch, it might be a good idea to start with the ball for the wrist, and then you kind of like, because in this case the body will follow the hand right later. So it might be good to either like start with how the arm, where the arm is going, because that's your focal point even, and then think about the body, or kind of like think about both, uh, like at the same time, like together. But yeah, don't be afraid of thinking stuff, planning stuff on layers. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't always need to do a full pass, and that's also about like flipping. If you see like initial passes for traditional animation, it's usually like a super loose, and not not putting attention on details kind of pass, which is what we've been practicing, what I was talking about. So yeah, the first pass can be loose, and it's basically is that like what's going on pass that I was commenting. So what's going on? Where are my shapes going? And then, okay, now I figured that out. So I'm gonna figure that out where my arms are going. And when I figure out where my arms are going, I'll probably tweak my body, and then I start like doing that, like sculpting your drawings, because at the end you will have to consider everything working together. So, but as you build, as you think it through, yeah, don't be afraid of like going like simple shapes first, and then uh, whatever hangs and extensions, and then head, and then even like later hair and like that kind of stuff.
What about when someone, like a character, is like walking or running or something? Because sometimes I get confused whether I should draw the body first or the legs first, since, the
Mm,
legs, they're kind of going up and down, and so that kind of affects where the body is as well.
yeah, walks are tricky, and walks they have like a little bit of a formula to that, and that's why I don't really like to uh, start talking about traditional animation with walks, because it's one is a bit of a formula, and okay, you do your contacts and then you go up and down, so it's not really uh, fun as I think we've been doing with balls and shapes and stuff. And then second, it's a bit easy to feel that the walk's not really working because it's not looking like a walk. You know what I mean? But for walks, people approach walks different. I like to do my hips first, so the up and down, and then as my hip is down, that's where my legs are bent and in the middle. And then as my hip is up, my hips are up. That's where the legs are in contact.
So you draw from the hips and then the legs first, and then you draw the rest of the body?
Yeah. And then for the arms, and I'm gonna show like more arms a little bit later here. But for the arms in the walk, that's basically how I approach them. Like it's that 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 wave thing going on. So my hand is the last thing that overlaps, which is kind of like that last bit here. So in this case, for instance, mm, that could be my arm, right? And then I could. So I'm thinking like here and then here and then here. And then see my fingers? I'm planning like that movement here. I mean, kind of quick demonstrating, but just so you get the idea of how. And I have like another example soon, but that's how I would like approach my arms, thinking about the wave and how what's overlapping and what's following through. In this case, like say that the forearm would follow through first, and then the hand would follow through later. So kind of like describing this S curve. So yeah, hips and then legs and then arms. And then if the arms are doing something, then it kind of changes, right? So like if it's doing that, if it's just like hanging arms, then yeah, that works. But if it's doing that, then it's kind of like it's still like follow through and overlaps, but on a different pose. Does that make sense? So yeah, like similar to what I was saying to Philip, like don't
So
be
then the head is last, then I guess,
um
since it follows through.
I would say it's last, but it's hard to think. It's hard to say like last because it's kind of like together. So when my hips are going down, my head's going up a little bit, and then when the hip starts to go up again, then my head goes. So like that little bounce of the head, you kind of plan according to your hips, and then you adjust like how much wants the head to bounce. Because sometimes like if the walk is like this, it's kind of weird. So you want to just a little bit, enough to like feel that the head has weight, but like not as much for the character to like be bouncing too much, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, so it's wave, the wave principle getting clear, and ways to apply it. And again, here I have like that's just like an horizontal example. So that one was vertical, and that one is like the lines going up. And then as this part starts to go down, this part starts to go up. And it's an example that has that part mostly in the same part, that tip, that part here in the center. Because we were doing like the ball going up and down, and that's an example where we are mostly in this area here. I should probably have done an actual dot here, but I didn't. But you guys get the idea.
So when it's tied down, it would be like wind, right? Where there's like one anchor point to it and then it's
Exactly.
flowing through.
Yeah. So that would be say like a wave flag. Flag waving. And when that happens, so for this example, this shape that is driving the movement started to change direction, right? So it's easy to see when and where the change of direction is happening. When we have like an anchor point like that, what will happen is that at some point that tip of the line is gonna start to change direction, but it's anchored on a point. So the way let me do that because I think it's gonna be clear. The way it's gonna change direction, it's actually bending a little bit. So it's there. So that's going up. That's going up, and then I can start to. If that was moving, that would be my shape going down. But because it's not moving, I'm gonna start bending, and I'm actually gonna do that here a little bit. I'm gonna start, yeah, bending this part a little bit down, and then I'm gonna push that moment down even more, and then I'm gonna. So now I have like this part here going down, and then I'm gonna have the change of direction again here. So this part is going up, and then that's overlapping. So that's happening, and that's overlapping here. And then, yeah, see, my drawings are like, because I did straight ahead, like I start like drawing more that way. Yeah, but that would be, again, like overlapping here. And then overlapping here. Basically, yeah, basically thinking about that part going up. So it's the same thing, but now we have an anchor point. So we have to start going up little by little from that point up, from that from the anchor point up. Does it make sense? Another way to think about the S curve. Let me see what I have here. Oh, that's a similar one that the one I did with the hair. Very similar, actually. Yeah. So another way to start to consider the S curve is by considering like changing direction from a C to an inverted C, and that again, that's one with an anchor point here. So C to inverted C, and we talked a little bit about that in the other class for antics. But like C to inverted C, it's kind of like a thing that you can keep in the back of your mind. Not a formula actually, but it helps a lot. The thing with C and inverted C is that the more you change, you vary from one shape to the other, the more you feel the animation. So C to an inverted C is basically like the energy being here and then being on the other way. And then I'm gonna think about my wave line. Let's say I'm gonna start thinking about like this tip is going there, and so this tip is kind of like starting to go there. Like the thing I was saying, like there's an anchor point, so I need to have like a little bit of room here for this part to start to move that way. Okay, and then I'm basically picking up from the follow through part. So that's following through here. It's a little bit weird because it starts in the middle of the movement, but I think like by now you guys should be okay to understand that. And then like I keep overlapping, and that goes there. And then you see that like that this part here is kind of like already, it's basically like that inverted C is already here almost. So like this part here is starting my inverted C here. So now it goes there, and then I can overlap more and have my inverted C there. And then I'm kind of like coming to my inverted C pose, and then I'm back to the full inverted C, and then like the opposite will happen. So now that's gonna overlap, and I'm gonna start like bringing my other tip to that way, and then again I'm overlapping a little bit more and already like describing more like this shape that's gonna go there. I push that shape more and I overlap more, and now I'm basically back to my C. So if you see that, oh sorry, and that's basically like the drawing that everybody kind of has when you talk to like wave principle. And if we play here, you can see, so that's the wave principle working on an anchor point, and it's going like from C to inverted C, and it's considering like overlap, like what's overlap and what's leading the movement. So like that tip, that ending beat here is kind of like leading the movement just by starting the movement, and then the top part is is following through. It's being dragged and then it's being followed through, giving us overlap. So I kind of like that approach, that like C to inverted C, and the way you go from one to another is by finding this S curve. S curves are crazy because they basically encapsulate everything that animation is about. Because the S curve, let's say like yeah, I actually have the example here. But what is happening here is that that's a key and that's a key, and my breakdown is basically like this S curve. And remember, we were talking about the breakdown being this drawing that is not an exact middle. That's where it starts to make more sense. So if I didn't know about the S curve and the breakdown, my my middle drawing from the C to inverted C would be that, right? And still, it's a middle drawing, but now we are considering overlap and what's leading and how the movement is happening. So I'm getting to this S curve, and S curve it's a shape that is very, very friendly for breakdowns, because you're considering stuff happening on different times. So this part here could be your leg, and this part could be your arms, or the hair, or anything that's being dragged. Point is, like, stuff is not happening on the same timing. So S curve, and the more you know about S curve, the more you see that happening everywhere. It's not about being a character being drawn on S. It's like that thing I was showing with the arm, right? Where is it? Yeah, here. So if I showed you guys only that, hopefully you wouldn't tell, oh, that's the S curve right there. But then I show, okay, I'm coming thinking about that, and then, oh yeah, the S curve is there. And the S curve is it's always like everywhere, really. And the more you consider it, the more fluidity you get in your animation. And that also doesn't mean that I draw the S curve all the time. But as I'm doing an arm, I'm considering, okay, I'm gonna like drag that hand a little bit, and that naturally will describe an S curve. But the thinking behind it's about the S curve. Okay, so C to inverted C. What I have there, yeah. Oh, and then I have like this other example here, which is so same thing that I did there. C to inverted C approach. C to inverted C kind of here. I did that a little bit more straight ahead, so you see that it's not as precise like a C to an inverted C, and that's the thing I was saying. Like I did straight ahead, so my inverted C ended up being a little bit more natural, more different. That's fine. And then what I did here, I use my S curve, which you can see down there in orange, and I basically put an arm on top of it. And you can see how fluid my arm looks, because it follows that S curve. And you can see how the hand, like, is the last thing that overlap, and there's like a little bit of a flick on the hand, and that's all because say like my shoulder and then my elbow is like leading the movement. So the shoulder starts to lead, and then the elbow starts to lead, and then the hand drags, and then again the shoulder starts to lead, and then the elbow starts to lead, and then my hand drags. And that's like is this stuff happening in chains. We'll see more about that in the last class. But it's you start like breaking your joints as you go, and that's the S curve being used to convey fluidity and smoothness. And then the last example that I have here, which is I have like that one as well. That's kind of like straight from the Richard Williams book. I basically did it here. So a character is lapping a table. So S curve really present here. Again, S curve, S curve. Now the elbow is leading the movement here. And my hand's being dragged. And now S curve like really present here. You don't need to. And that's when smear starts to make more sense as well. If I want to add smear here, that's where my smear should go, because it's understanding like how the movement is happening. And then okay, S curve, and now my wrist is kind of like already like leading the movement. So elbow and now wrist kind of leading the movement, and then slap. So you see the like that movement here. And then as it slaps, like I have like an overshoot and then comes back. So an overshoot goes beyond the last point and then come back, right? So bang. And it's funny that like all those examples are basically understanding the wave principle. So it's very important. And then my favorite example here is that one. Remember we talked about the C and the inverted C being a good way to think about an anticipation. So like the more you change your position, the more change you have from one position to another, the more you see the animation happening, and also the more energy it will convey that the character is holding. So if you go from here to here, I'm not really, or like the punch example, right? If I'm going from here to here, that punch is going to be really weak. But if I go from here to here, then that's a big punch, because I'm changing the variation from position 1 to position 2. It's more noticeable. So the C to inverted C, the same thing, right? And it's the same thing for anticipations. So if I really invert that C, that's going to be a lot of energy being held, and then I can release it. So the movement's like, oh, that's a fast movement, because it holds a lot of energy, and then it released it. And then I just want to like combine the two things, the C and inverted C, with the S in the middle, and thinking about the S as the breakdown. So I have so I'm going from here to here, okay? And you can see like that's the S curve here. That's the inverted C here, and then it goes to that other inverted C. Then what I did here, I started to plan my S curve, and I basically considered that breakdown being my S curve. So the mechanics going on here is exactly the same as the one we saw with the line going from a C to an inverted C. So inverted C, S, and now my S is the breakdown, and then C. So 1, 2, 3. Those were the three. So keyframe, breakdown, keyframe, and using S curve to its fullest potential, really. Because you can do S curves for tails and hair and stuff, but you can do that for the whole character. And we're gonna talk more about like line of action later, but that's how you should approach the line of action. It's like a line that it's like it's not the spine of your character. Is a line that understand where the energy is coming from and how the energy is being dragged from one place to another, or is moving from one place to another. So wave principles and line of action, kind of like there's more coming about that, but just we start. And then okay, oh sorry. Then I did S curve, more S curve, overlapping a little bit more, and then here. And then the two extra drawings that I have in this movement is like before starting that, I did an anticipation, which we talked about. So my character is going that way. So I'm gonna anticipate that way, or that way. So anticipation, and it's kind of like a really quick one just for the sake of demonstrating. Anticipation starts the S curve, S curve, S curve, and then I did from here to here, I kind of did like just like a soft accent. So this pose very close to that one. So just like an easing. And then you can see and my hopes is that you guys can understand every single drawing in this animation here. Keyframe, considering the C and the line of action. Keyframe, breakdowns, considering drag and overlap. Anticipation going up and on in the opposite direction, and then soft accent. And most importantly for that class is like that line happening throughout the animation. Back to C. And that gives your animation a lot of fluidity. So that guy has no arms, but like later, you can plan the S curves for this arm and how, let's say if he's throwing a ball, how do you think about the breakdown where he prepares for the ball to be thrown, that kind of thing. And then another thing that I was considering here when I was like lifting that leg here, if you see that, so from here to here to here to here, so that leg, there's also secondary arcs and S curves going on for that leg. So that's not necessarily like a wave principle where stuff like overlap and follow through. That's more like a wave or a S arc. So waves and arcs, they can be in place or they can be moving. That's so in this case it's just like the foot following the S curve for my arc, but then for the whole body, this S curve is actually moving within the character. So they're kind of similar concepts, but not really. But all that's happening in this little example. Questions about the wave principle. I know that one can be a little bit tricky, and that's one that really requires like practice and that one really requires like flipping and like, oh, I'm gonna push this tip a little bit more here, and then like that exercise that I was doing here, kind of like pushing it. That's where you really start to feel how much you can push stuff, and like, oh, I'm really like describing that good arc and that S curve, and oh, my animation is feeling more smooth now because I was considering that. So like I know that one is a little bit, it might hopefully it's not too much because you guys are really doing some amazing stuff with the assignments and all that, but if you guys have questions, please do.
Yeah, how does weight affect the S curve? So like if something's really light, it's not just gonna have like one it won't just be one S curve, right? Like there would be multiples. Does that just depend on length?
You mean weight?
Yeah. So like if the arm is really heavy, like the S curve would be a lot. It wouldn't be as exaggerated, right? It would
Exactly.
just
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing I was saying about like yeah, let's say the example for the bulldog, like kind of like the jaw is heavy. So yeah, it goes up, you overlaps and does the S curve, but you don't need to push it too much so much. But like
okay.
every action will really benefit from a little bit of like a S curve and overlap and follow through. Like if something stops abruptly, that's a little bit weird. Even like like even like if it's like a bowling ball stopping, you wanna go a little bit and then come back. Like is that thing when you do like a bouncing tennis ball comparing to a bouncing bowling ball. Like all the principles are there, but they're like way toned down with the bowling ball.
Okay. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
yeah, so a heavy character would have say like less noticeable wave lines, but if you don't have them there, then the character gonna start like to look a little bit stiff. But yeah, like totally like animators' decision and based on character and uh, character personality and character design also. Because another thing that can be cool too is like what if like a really heavy character uh, moves on a really like fluid and poppy and happy way. That's also like interesting because you were expecting a character to move slow because he's big and heavy, but then he jumps like very lightly and like active. So that can be something that the animator can play with too and get to some interesting places, right? There's this character, I don't know if you guys know this movie, it's called like Nocturna. I can send the link. But there's this guy that is like that was a I should have thought about that for the solid drawing. There's this one character that is basically like a ball, uh, uh, not just a ball, but like he has arms and legs. But the design is like a super round, and he jumps like in roofs and stuff. So it's a nice example of a character that you would expect it to move on a slow way, but it doesn't, and it's cool. If you guys didn't check out this movie, it's pretty amazing. Uh, so yeah, overlap, wave principle. Uh, I'm a big fan of the wave thing. And then yeah, that's it in terms of like animation content for this class. Let me see if I have something else here. Oh, I do. So I put yeah, like there's that there which we talked about, and then there's some like really super nice examples with Preston Blair's uh, lag and not what I did. And yeah, you can see like how present the S curve is here, right? And you can see like in the horse how much of the S curve is present in the whole horse movement. Like so like the head's leading and then the back of the body is being dragged and then the back of the body is leading and the head's being dragged and that kind of stuff we talked about. There's some other examples for Eric Goldberg, but the one I want to focus on is like that lag here. And what I did, I basically took the lag. Yeah, I put the lag here. And just to show on another example how the wave is present there. Just in case you guys see that in the class and have a hard time like getting like where's the wave line there? So that's what I was doing. Like I did two actually. I did this one, and then I did another one like this one. And if you see without That's not different at all than the thing we were doing with the arm and with the character. And I did another one a little bit more pushed, with still like I don't know, maybe if the foot was like on fire, that's like a little bit of there's a little bit of move part here that you feel it.
So do you usually start with the head and then you go for the arms, or it depends? It all depends.
For do you mean for a character?
Yeah, yeah. Let's say you're gonna make your character to do like a walk cycle. Usually do the head first and then
I usually go for the hips, and then I
okay, yeah.
yeah, I do the hip, I do the up and down for the hips, and then like kind of together with the hips, I do the head a little bit, because the head is also going up and down, same as the hips, on a little bit overlap. And then as the hips are down, that's when the legs are bent. One leg is passing, and then when the hips are up, there's the two contacts. So let me just, I mean, not gonna demonstrate like a full walk, but so that's what it is for a walk. That's how I approach. Some people approach it different. And the book for Richard Williams is basically like about the about walk cycles, really. And then in that he talks about a lot of stuff. So that's my hips going up and then down and then up again. And I'm gonna do a floor here. So when my hips are down, that's when I have when my legs are bent, right? And one of the legs is let's do just one leg for now. No, let's do two. And then one of the legs is passing. And then in here, that leg that is passing now, it was there. So that's my contact position. And then that leg that it was there. Oh, sorry. That leg that is bent now is there. And then the opposite will happen here. So that leg that is, so leg is here, and then it's here, and then it kind of like completes the cycle in there.
Also using the S in the breakdowns.
Yeah. And then the other leg, it's there here. So that's the three key poses for oh, sorry. And then the middle is gonna be different, and then it comes back. So this is different now. That's the leg that is passing, and that's the leg that is, oh sorry, that's the leg that is passing, and that's the other leg is back. Right? Yeah. So, but yeah, I start with the hips, and then yeah, like that leg here, for instance, it would do like that, and then the flick of the foot here, and then back again here, and then again here. So yeah, there's this S curve in the lag. But yeah, it's really like kind of like similar to the S curve. So that flick of the foot here is kind of like that last flick of the hand. Yeah. Cool. So the other thing that I had planned for the class is to talk more about Flash. And I'm gonna talk more about symbols and demonstrate how we can use them and plan our animation using symbol. Like that said, it's kind of like a big disclaimer here because I don't want you guys to uh, start thinking your assignment on a different way right now, especially like that second assignment. So take that as like a say like a flash class and uh, and all that. But if you feel that it helps with the assignment, please go for it. Absolutely. If you feel that you just want to clean it like you clean the shape assignment, also like please do. Uh, so in Flash, we talked about F5, F6, F7, but we didn't talk about F8. And F8 is the one you click to do a symbol. So I did like a ball, and as I do that, that's just like my drawing here, right? It's like I can tweak and I can do stuff that we've been doing. If I click F8, gives me the symbol window. There's three kinds of symbol. One is a move clip, one is a button, and one is a graphic. And we should always be using graphic. Movie clips and buttons were for when people were doing websites in Flash. Movie clips won't play on your timeline. They will play only on your Swift, and buttons are supposed to be buttons to do buttons. So just go for a graphic, and I think it's always good to keep the anchor point in the middle. I'm gonna call this character class. Okay, so I got my symbol, and as I get my graphics symbol, graphics have three options, and they are sorry. A symbol. If I'm going too fast, please just stop. Right. What a symbol is and I think like you guys do After Effects, so it's gonna be easy for you to understand. It's basically like a pre-comp. Is a drawing with a timeline within. So if I double click the symbol, I go inside the symbol. So now I'm inside character class, which is how I named my symbol. And as I go in, I basically have like a new blank timeline. And as you now know, the timeline in Flash, we need to go and set up how long we want the timeline to go and play with Shift F5 or F5 and all that, right? So now I have like that drawing that I did there, but inside a symbol, and I can move that symbol around, but I can't tweak the drawing as I was used to tweak. Now I need to go inside and tweak it here. So a symbol kind of like locks your drawing as well. Okay, so that's my ball for now within a symbol. What I'm gonna do now, let's say I want my ball to go from here to here. Yeah, from here. Or let's do that. Yeah, keeping my ground here. Very like loose path, right? Let's say I'm planning my timing and my spacing here, so I want my ball to like slowly come there and like bounce quick here and stay a little bit longer here and then bounce again here and like kind of like just a quick bounce here. So I'm gonna like say like start from here, and instead of drawing now, I can kind of like move my symbol around. I'm gonna place it there. Oh, what's that? Yeah, I'm gonna place it there, and I'm gonna like follow my path with that. It's here. See that I have like these little dots here. you should never have anything else than the symbol in the timeline, and I'm going to show later why. Then I'm planning my bounce. I can do my squash here, considering volume. And then my I'm gonna do a drawing on ones here, very stretched before that. And then my bounce, kind of like losing the volume a little bit here. And then I'm gonna go again. I can copy my symbol, like I can go Command C. I'm gonna delete that and Command V. So I kind of like have my shape with the same size again. So I did my path there, but now I noticed that I did my ball a little bit too big. So I'm just gonna go, or actually let's do it different. So I did my path there just to demonstrate how symbols work. And I want my ball to be there, but if the ball is there, then it's bouncing like too little. Now I can go inside here, and my symbol so far is just one drawing. So I can, if I go here and I make it smaller, all of a sudden like I have like a smaller ball there, right? So it's good because I tweaked the ball just once, but now that thing that it was on the ground, it's not. So I kind of need to go and fix it. But it's still kind of like fixing one drawing. And now I can have my ball here and then here. Or I'll demonstrate another thing. Okay, my ball it's here. And now I'm gonna plan my moment up here and then my moment down there. And instead of like moving move my drawing like I was doing for that one, and that's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong about that. I plan my next drawing here, and I put my hang time there and now there. So instead of moving my drawing, I'm gonna go right click, create classic tween. This motion tween it's not the best, so just go classic tween and then classic tween again. So right now it does that. It has no timing, no acceleration or deceleration. I think like that can be a little bit there. And the way you plan with acceleration and deceleration for the tween here, you can click on the tween and go here, and you have like tweening, you have the easy here. So if you pull like all the way up to 100, that's gonna give you deceleration. And if you put all the way back to -100, that's gonna give you ease out. Now what it's doing here is just going from one to another on a straight line. And remember when we were talking about arcs and like how arcs are like natural and it gives it a lot of fluidity. So that here is not a fluid movement. That's a very like computer movement made by a computer. So what we can do here, we can go and break the tween on choose by clicking it. If you click in the middle of the tween, you break it, and now you can go here, remove your tween, and now you can adjust these arcs. So now I have like an arc going on.
So you actually created trains just to make it a little bit quicker
just to make a little bit faster and easier.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So Yeah, the tween was there just to help me a little bit. I actually find that sometimes it doesn't really help on getting stuff faster, because I do believe that it's very important to tweak it later, because if not, you're gonna end. That's why people don't like Flash, because people just leave it. And so if you're gonna like tweak it later, you might as well kind of like just do like I did at the beginning here. Then you are really like controlling the timing and like thinking about your scratch and stretches. But yeah, it's good for some things, and it helps. It does speed up a little bit. And then okay, like here.
Did you say that the symbols usually you need to create just one shape? Like you can't have, let's say, a hat within the same symbol,
A head?
like a hat or any accessory for the character, let's say.
Oh yeah, I'll show you. That's what the assignment's gonna be about.
Oh, okay.
Just let me just plan that. But you can, to your question. Okay, so the timing could probably be a little bit better there, but you get the idea that I was working on just one, and I have like the better example later. I was working only placing the symbol and like and tweaking the shape, and still what I have inside my timeline here, my character class symbol, is just one drawing so far. So I haven't done much drawing yet. So what I can do, now what I can start doing once I have like that idea established, the path, I can go inside and I can do and stuff. It's obviously never like that step by step, so a lot of that stuff actually happens kind of all together, but I'm just trying to break it down on a very clear way for you guys to understand what's possible and how to approach a scene when working with symbols. So let's say here I want to have my construction lines and I want to have my character just very basic construction lines. So now instead of having my ball bouncing, because I drew inside the symbol, now I have my ball with construction line bouncing, right? So it bounces there, boom, boom. And the other thing, I was just like doing move position, but you can obviously also change the rotation. So my character is going there, and then it's going there. You see, because I tweened, it kind of tweened the distortion as well. So in this case, I'm gonna do that and that. Oh yeah, see, that's where symbols can get a little bit tricky. Now here, I ended up distorting on the squashing on the wrong rotation. So now it's good, but before it was like on the wrong rotation. So okay, now my ball is like it's all here, and again you can like tweak the timing here, and put more frames and then like move it there. So like here is like just a normal timeline. So are we all good understanding that like that's inside the symbol and then stuff is happening there outside? Another important thing for symbols is to keep the timeline synchronized. So in this case, this symbol here, that brings me to another point that I didn't talk about. So graphic symbols, they give you 3 options for how the timeline is gonna be played. So the default option is called loop. So that means that it's gonna loop the timeline within. Then there's another option that is play once. It's gonna play once the timeline and then it stops in the last frame. So let's say if I have a timeline here that is 80 frames and my timeline inside is 50, it's gonna play until the 50 and then it stops. So even though my even though my timeline is shorter inside, it's still gonna be showing here. And then the last option is the single frame, and that means it's basically gonna stay still on the frame that you choose. And the way you choose frames is by typing it in here. So right now, I don't know why, I think I probably pulled another frame from here to here, and right now my frame 1 in my main composition or my main timeline is actually starting from frame 12, and that's not what I want. I wanted to start from frame 1, so frame 1 it is. And then let's see if like this frame here, which is supposed to be frame 12, that's 12, so it's correct. So 14, 16, so all seem to be good here until to this point where it's 12 again. And that's because I copied from here to keep the shape constant, because that's a drawing that came after my squash. So in order to keep the timeline synchronized, so I just said that it's good, you could have the timeline, shorter timelines inside, but it's good practice to actually have the inside timelines longer. So I can come here, and knowing that my first drawing is set to loop on once, I can click on the layer, and with right click I can go synchronize symbols. So now all those drawings are synchronized. So like that drawing that before was wrong on 38, now it's correct on 38. So that means that my timelines are synchronized, and that's very important. So synchronized frames, that's another thing. Okay, so now let's start to play with a little bit of animating inside the timeline. So let's say I want my character to, in this point or in this point, have the head, and every time I go inside a symbol, it goes to the frame that I am at. So that's good to know. So let's say that instead of my character being like that, I want my head to be dragged here at this point. So I'm gonna do my drag here. And you see that like my ball it's distorted here, and that's just because I enter a symbol that is distorted on the outside. So if you enter a symbol, it gets distorted. You keep the distortion really, but your symbol with no distortion is still there. It's in your library. So like if I go here, that's me, and if I go to the library, that's me entering the symbol without any distortion. So different than entering here, which there is a distortion, and then I enter keeping the distortion, and then I can tweak it, which is super useful. So okay, I plan this drag here, and then I want to keep that drag until that part where I'm gonna drag on the other way. So I'm gonna delete it, and I'm gonna use solid drawing to plan my drag here. And then let's say on my hang time, I wanted the character to look the other way, like that. And maybe like a little bit nose up. So I'm planning my my keyframes, and then at this point he is again being dragged. So that. And then let's say he lands with a squash kind of construction line, like that. And then he around here, and you see I put it around there. I put it a little bit ahead, so I'm kind of like thinking about the timing a little bit already. I wanted like the turn to not happen right after the squash, but a little bit later. So my character to turn there. So I have my keys now for the turns. And now inside the symbol, I can go and I can start in betweening just those lines, still keeping the character. What is important to see is that this thing is not changing. So it could be a ball, it could be anything, and or a head shape or anything, and you'd still have like just one there. Then I can go inside here and start like in betweening my head. So from here it goes to there. And you can see so my timelines were a little bit unsynchronized. So yeah, so see the in between happening here. It can be probably a little bit, yeah, like just there, just on the ones. Oh, here. So that's what it is to work with symbols. You kind of like keep synchronizing rotations, and okay, my squash is there, and now for my turn on my hang time, I want to go from there to there, and I'm gonna plan my in between. So I'm gonna go from here to here, and then this line, and then this line. And what I'm thinking here is this arc here from here to here and then to there. Like kind of like the middle point is here and then it's there and then it's gonna be here. So my line is here and then it's here. So that's my turn happening mid-air. Then what I can do, having these lines, I can start like placing my eyes and kind of like doing the facial features more based on on a drawing that is in place, which sometimes helps a lot. But it helps way more if you do that based on a traditional animation path. So like here, just for the sake of the demonstration, the only thing that I have underneath it is like is that, which I did it quick. But in the case of the assignment, you guys would have that traditionally animated frame by frame path underneath, and you could do this approach with the cleanup, like cleaning up with symbols.
Do you have a preferred way of doing it? Like, do you prefer using the symbols over drawing every frame?
No, I always draw the very first pass is always like a little bit of a drawing. If it's really like a rushed kind of production, then I take advantage of symbols a little bit more. If not, then I do like to kind of like either like do the rough pass, like a more detailed rough pass, and then do cleanup with symbols, or do the cleanup like all traditionally. I like it always looks better if like it's traditional, in my opinion. It takes time. It's time consuming to do traditional, but it's also time consuming to tweak the symbols so they don't look like they are, say, like computer made or like stiff or like flash looking. So
Cool.
it's use them as a little bit of a help, but not as a technique, I'd say. You know what I mean? Okay, back to that one here. So now, for instance, we've been working only with this round shape, right? But let's say I wanna this squash here to be a little bit more drawn, more distorted. So I can come here, and in this drawing now, I can delete it and make a squash that is a little bit more less computer looking, where I'm gonna give my voice to that character and make it a little bit different. Just on this frame, and then it's back on normal shape. So in this case, I would have to also tweak my construction lines to fit that character, that distortion that is now a little bit different. So that kind of thing. So now if you go inside or outside, now my character bounces there. Oh, where's this line? Oh, there you go. So if you go now, I see, that's the thing I was talking about. Like now we are starting to have a little bit of a more traditional look, because we are breaking those perfections that the computer ended up doing, right? And not here I'm just thinking, okay, that squash can be a little bit more squashed. But if I actually had like a traditional animated path underneath it, I would know exactly like how to squash, and then maybe my next one is a little bit more stretched. So I would have that guide, and having that guide underneath, I would be going inside the symbol, tweaking how this can look on different frames. And that's where you start to have like a little bit of a better look to your symbol animation, when it's not just like symbols. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to show is how to use. So let's say we have the construction lines. Now we can do with the construction lines. Then we can start like placing the eyes. And I'm inside the character class symbol, and I did an eye, and I'm gonna hit F8 again, and I'm gonna call it eye, or eye character. And then I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna copy that other eye in another layer. It's always good, and it's always actually necessary, it's always good to keep one symbol per layer. So that's why I copied the eyes inside. So similar to the head that we did, by default is looping on once, and if I enter, I have like no timeline. But in this case, I'm going to show another use we can do for symbols, which is to use the single frame. And the single I'm going to do for both And the single frame is very good when you wanna to build a library of stuff. So in this case, let's say I wanna keep my eyes blinks kind of like constant throughout the scene. So I'm gonna do a blink here, and or like a squash kind of eye like this. So now even if I play it, it's still on frame 1 because it's on single frame. And the way I can tweak that is by coming here and typing the drawing number 2. So the single frame option basically creates a library from different stuff. And actually I animate now. Yeah, I'll show a new tool that Animate has that is pretty cool. But yeah, single frames, they can be used as libraries. So in this case, let's just like keep one for now. And because I have my construction lines, I can start doing the same thing that I did with the other, with the shape itself, like on the main layer. I can start to tweaking those eyes to match what my plan was. And in this case, for the demonstration, the plan it's not really planned, but for the assignment, you guys have a really good traditional animation path, which you can follow.
Did I use this for the mouth sync as well?
Yeah,
This
you
library?
can. That's for TV series especially. That's very, very common. That's how lip sync is done for TV series. So yeah, good thinking. So there you go. Now my eyes is following my. Now my eyes are following the contour lines inside the symbol, and that's happening outside here. So I have like animation within animation, or like symbol inside symbol, or like pre-comp inside pre-comp. And then let's say like from here, or like here, I actually want my character to have drawing number 2 because it's a scratch drawing. And it's always better, see that it's like this, it's always better to tweak the drawing always in the frame you are at. So if you want to tweak this drawing, make sure you enter this drawing from the main timeline. So 1 and then 2. I want to like the squash here as well. 2. But in this case, 2. Yeah, in this case, as you can see, that's kind of bad because that's I wanted the squash to be for the other side. So I can come here, tweak that, and then I can call it number 3. The new drawing that I just did. So I'm doing it quick just to demonstrate, but that's how you can use single frames. And then, so loops, synchronized symbols, single frames. So yeah, you can make blinks. And then like the last thing that I'm gonna show. So right now, like that here is just a rough, but I can actually come here and I can actually start to clean that up with and you see that like I put the ball here and it showed up here because in the other symbol that same thing the same thing is happening. So I can start like cleaning up with the symbols inside, and I can do the same in this layer, which I'm gonna call rough ball. I can go and do a clean ball. And the last thing I want to demonstrate, because I can't remember who was interested about masks, so I'm going to demonstrate the good use of masks. Yeah, I'm just picking the color because color doesn't matter actually for this point. But let's say I'm starting to clean up my shape here. So there you go. Now it's very round. And if I do a guide for that one, now I have like my So my shapes is starting to look more like a cleaned up character, right? And then what I can do here is to, let's say, okay, how about this frame where my character is squashed? That one special frame that we were considering. That one. So that one we need to delete that ball and kind of like make a cleanup just for that one, because it's a special one. It's like it's one where we are breaking the idea of like a computer doing the job for us. I know this. Yeah. So now I have my squash cleaned up. So clean up and rough. And then what I want to demonstrate here is that we can use this as a mask. So let's say I have my construction lines and I wanted to have two, I'm gonna call that mask for now. Different. Just a sec. I'm gonna use my construction lines to clean the character. So in this case, because I know the edge of my character is here, I can go using my construction line as a guide and just kind of like considering that the color is gonna be there. Well, let's do different because it's moving more in this direction. Let's do that. So see that I'm like just going around the edge, not really putting a lot of attention on how the shape ends because that's gonna be masked. And, oh, I missed it. There you go. So now I can go and pick some colors and like play my paint my up part and my down part. Oh. And I can do that trick that I showed, selecting all and deleting the lines. So I'm gonna call the layer color, and I'm gonna then duplicate that layer. So I'm gonna go new layer. I'm gonna select all the frames by clicking on the layer here. Then I'm gonna hold Alt and bring it up. And I'm gonna bring it on top of the color layer. I always like to call it mask just so it's clear. Now I'm gonna mask it. So now my shape is masked. And the eyes are in place considering the construction lines. And if you go outside, let me guide that thing. So I have now my eyes with a single frame and my ball using my ball as a mask, keeping in mind that I can always tweak the ball if I want. So everything is So it's a different way to approach your cleanup and your animation, really. And you can use it. Let me show you the example that I did. To plan the class, really. Which that's gone. That's there. Yeah. There you go. That's like that's the other example that I did, like preparing this demonstration. Turned out a little bit better. But the process is the same. So I plan my drags and then I tweak some of my drawings. I have my eyes with a single frame, so I can use this as a library. This is a symbol. This is being masked. So pretty, not really caring too much about where it ends, but just like where's the, care more about the inside, really. And then having it working all together, based on here just a path, but on a perfect world based on a really good rough animation path. So the animation looks more like it's traditionally animated, which in fact it is, because the timing was planned with a traditional animation mind and all that. Does that make sense? Is that too heavy for like I don't know, software stuff, or you guys good?
That helped a lot.
Cool, that's good. Let me just show that one new tool the Animate has. So if I'm doing a symbol here, so that's Animate now. I'm gonna call it demonstration or frame picker. That's the name of the new tool that Animate has. So if I go in, if I set my symbol for a single frame, I can go inside and do different shapes. So I can go, hey, and then oh, and then ooh, or like that kind of stuff. So different mouth shapes. And then I think that was an ask for TV series studios, really, because now you have this tool called Frame Picker, which is basically instead of typing it in here, you can just go and click it, which is pretty amazing. So let's say in your timeline, you wanna this frame to be this mouth, and then this frame to be this mouth, and then this frame to be this mouth, and then this frame. So if you have like an audio and you are syncing, it sounds easy, but it's not that easy to sync to an audio. But that's the process is basically that. You do, and the more drawn mouths you have, the more movement you will achieve in your animation, really. But yeah, I just wanted to show like the frame picker, because I know most of you guys are using Animate, so there's this option here as well.
Henrique,
Yeah.
so let's say if you change the timeline a bit, like this, the timing after all.
Yeah.
So then you need to go inside every symbol and then change manually to sync with the timeline.
Yeah, you do. So let's say here, for instance, I want my character to be in this position. So the beginning of, say at the beginning of the scene, something is happening, and the character needs to start to move like 10 frames later. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now this frame, you see like my animation is happening before I need. So I need to go inside, give it 10 frames here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I can go select all the timeline and synchronize symbols. So now it's happening where I need. So yeah, you do actually. So that's why it's important to, like, the more set you are with your timing, the more like that kind of tweak you need to do. So
Yeah.
that's again why that rough animation and that planning is so important at the beginning.
But can you, like, in a production, can you make sure at all that everything is set, or usually you have lots of changes, then you need to go in and then change everything manually? Usually like straight ahead, and you don't have much changes, or?
You mean it depends on the client, really.
Okay.
Yeah. On a perfect situation, no, we don't. But like sometimes, yeah, the client changes the stuff. So that's why symbols are also good for production. Because let's say the character didn't like the color of the character's eyes, or then if I drew the eye just once, I can just go and change it. But that's kind of like the tug of war, like always, right? Like if we keep too much symbol, then it's kind of like we don't have like much room to play. But then on the other hand, we do need to keep it easy to change, so symbols are good for that. So it's kind of like, where do we use symbols and where we don't, and like, so and sometimes it kind of like, it's how we are thinking about the client. If the client's like from the beginning making a lot of asks in the script, and then in the other direction, yeah, maybe let's not.
Just start with.
Yeah, I know it's kind of like, it's that kind of decision. But like one thing that I do like almost always really is to do that rough pass, even if it's like a quick one, kind of like a stick figure one, where I'm thinking, okay, here the character's gonna look there and that's gonna look there. I do like a very quick one, and that helps a lot. Like a little bit more than only the path, but like kind of like the what's going on kind of thing, right? So yeah, someone asked something. What's the short? Oh, there's no shortcut, Zach. If you double click the symbol, he asked. Oh, you guys can see, right? If you double click the symbol, you go inside. If you double click anywhere outside, it goes back. So it's kind of like double clicking always. Yeah, good question. Flash versus animate. That will be a little bit more clear on the character class. I use, like, the reason I use Flash is mostly because the pencil tool on Animate is, I don't know why, it got worse. So so if I drew a line here, and it kind of varies from day to day, I think. See, like it's kind of like making that, that's not the line that I drew. And then if you go in Flash, it keeps it more. So that's really like the only reason why I still have Flash. Like all the other stuff in Animate is it's better actually. There's like some new cool tools. You can like move your stage with H. And what else? Yeah, there's some other like brush. The brush.
There's a camera tool now too, I think.
Yeah, I never used the camera tool actually, but yeah, there's a camera tool.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff, but still for the pencil line, which I ended up using a lot, I use Flash. But like on a daily basis, I'm actually using Animate now. And then if I know that that's gonna be pencil, it's good. It's easy to have both, so I have both here, for instance. but the pencil line on Animate is not good. Maybe it's just my computer. Yeah. So for the assignment, you guys, I provided you with well, not me, Fernanda, my wife, and Illustrator designed some extensions, and the idea now is to play with the overlap and with that S curve that we talked about. So there's like two kinds of like extensions. One sits on top of the character's head, and one is hanging. So one is very how can I say, very friendly for overlap. So the one that is on top is very friendly for overlap, and the one that is hanging is very friendly for that S curve. And that's it for this class. And then I finish the assignment, which I know it takes time and cleanup is hard. So that's also why I kind of like kept that simple. And at this point, it's kind of like that break. So hopefully that class was a little bit lighter. Maybe not the flash part, but like the other thing was basically about the wave and a little bit more of overlap. So it's hopefully lighter, and that will give you guys time to finish the bouncing ball, maybe like reread class 1 to 4, so we can start the character assignment with all that in mind. So kind of like simple assignment for the week, overlap and S curves. And again, those are here to help, to give you guys like a head start. If you guys want to like design something your own, as some of you already did in the assignment, and that's I'm always like a pusher for that as well. So don't feel afraid of like going kind of like outside the box kind of thing. If you wanna use this, go ahead as well. But for the week, what is important is to have like something for overlap and something for play with the S curve. Let me see, and I think that's it for the assignment, really. And I have here the first one. Yeah. So sorry. Is it? No. Yeah. So I have here my character jumping, and then I added my overlap with the one I picked, like the top hat. So character goes up, and then the hat like overlaps and drags. And then I have my S curve with my tie. And one thing I wouldn't, huh?
So you did it separately, not in the symbol layer of the head.
Oh yeah,
Just created-
exactly. Sorry, you asked. I was when I mentioned that I was going to show you was more about the eyes. So the eyes, for instance, here, they are inside. Where is it? They are inside the symbol. So that's similar to the thing I was demonstrating.
Okay, because it doesn't go off of the head anyway. That's why.
Yeah, but it could. Let's say if I want to draw the eyes here, I can come here and draw the eyes. Oh. I could draw the eyes here. Yeah.
Okay. So you just create the head separately because it's easier to tweak? Or it's just your...
No, it was kind of well, it was a way to demonstrate like symbols and like how to approach your scene. in a different way, and then that's basically why I use the symbol. But again, like the process, it can be frame by frame or cleaned up like the shape or that. One thing I would recommend though is to do the overlap and the S curves, maybe mostly the S curve on a more drawn way, like really like frame by frame, because that's where you can like really break and like show like fluidity and like so I would maybe push a little bit for you guys if you guys are keen on using symbols and stuff. Do it for the hat, but then for the hat and the tie, maybe try like a frame by frame, and then cleaned up like we cleaned up the shape. And then like having this mix with symbol and frame by frame also like breaks that computer look, which is I don't know, that's always kind of like the goal, I guess, is to not look like a computer. So like having, even if you have like a tie that is like drawn, it already breaks a lot the idea that it's like rigid and computer looking. So maybe go for those two drawn frame by frame, and that's my S curve here, and up there as well. Right? So super rough. Oh, I actually have it cleaned. There you go. Yeah. So, and I can show you the hat. So that hat here, the way I kept that width here, that I use pencil line. So that's just a pencil line, a fake pencil line. So that's again kind of like understanding what's possible with the software and using it to your advantage, right? That's just a pencil line, and it keeps the width. And if I want to go here and tweak it, it's possible. And with the other example that I was showing last week, I also did like a kind of like a quick pass for that guy, like a two kind of scarf kind of thing. Then he goes up. So overlap in the hat, S curves in the scarf. And hats clean up either with symbols or actually drawn, like we did with the shape assignment. I would encourage you guys to kind of like keep going, because I don't know, maybe it's up to you. If you feel like redoing, yeah, go for it. Maybe now it's gonna be faster, and now you know like how the whole assignment is gonna look. So yeah, if you feel like going forward with what you have, and I would say like everybody has a good path that could be going forward with. It's okay too, up to you. And that's it for today's class. Do you guys have any other questions? All right, so again, assignment for Tuesday, we keep in touch in the Slack channel. You guys been sending some pretty cool links. It's awesome. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye, guys. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.